Okay, so welcome back. This is the fifth module for first week. So we will continue our discussion on the global statistics of plastic. So if you remember, in this particular week, we have talked about so far in the first 4 videos what is plastic, what are the different types of plastic. We also looked at the usage of plastic. Then towards last slide of the previous module, we got into the global statistics, and we'll continue our discussion from there. So this was the last slide, if you remember, that we had in the previous video. Just to continue the discussion from here, I put this slide. So if you remember, we said that 50% of the plastic is actually made in Asia, and we explained why it is so, and that's followed by Europe and North America, and then Middle East, Latin America, and this Middle East countries. So this is so just take home message here is most of the plastic, half of the plastic is actually made in Asian countries, and out of that 30%, so nearly more than whatever is made in Asia, more than half of that is actually made in China itself. So that's why if you can think about China, if you remember, I said that very recently in April 2018, they have decided not to take dirty plastic waste which is going for recycling from other countries into China. Earlier, China used to take a lot of plastic waste from Europe, from Japan maybe as well, from Europe, from North America, Australia, New Zealand. From these countries, a lot of plastic waste used to come to China, and the reason for that was China was trying to recycle it. China is a lot of manufacturing industry. Manufacturing industry needs lots of plastic, so there was a market for this kind of recycled plastic. Now China itself produces a lot of plastic waste itself, and this recycled plastic coming from abroad was mostly very dirty, and so now China has said, I don't want dirty. If you want to give me, it has to be really clean plastic. It cannot be dirty plastic. I'll not take your dirty stuff. And that's the reason for that is China itself is producing a lot of plastic now. They don't really require plastic from abroad to sustain those manufacturing industry. So now if you look at plastic, the main market which we talked about earlier, in terms of different markets that is out there for plastic usage. Packaging industry, which if you remember, we talked about that. Packaging industry, nearly 40% of the plastic is in plastic industries. Building construction, 20%. Automotive, 10% of plastic goes there. Electrical, electronics, 6.2%. Household, leisures and sports, 4.2%, agriculture 3.3%, and others is 17%, which includes appliances, mechanical engineering, furnitures, and medical usage and all that. So 40% of the plastic goes in the packaging industry. So that's and many times in the packaging industry we are using those thin plastic, film plastic, or single-use plastic. So that's the where we need to kind of focus on trying to get rid of those plastic components. So that's these are the main market in terms of its global usage, where the plastic is being used up. So if you look at from a resin type, in terms of the resin type, we have around it's 49.9 metric ton, where we have polypropylene, polyethylene, and high density, medium density, PVCs, PET, polystyrene, ABS. So as you can see from these two columns over here, kind of shows you the data from 2015 and 2016. So 2016 is the slightly like a greenish color, and 2015 is that light blue color that you see over there. And for most of the material, in fact for all of the different plastic type, you see that actually the global production figure has gone up. Global production figure has gone up in terms of the different plastic that is being used as per the different resin types. So we are producing more and more plastic. There is a lot of demand for plastics, and that's why there will be the market in terms of managing this plastic waste out there as well. So if you look at different types of plastics and where they are being used, Here bigger the bubble, and I think if you have not seen these kind of pictures before, here the bigger the bubble means bigger the quantity is more. So the data is we have bigger values for those particular data. So at the bottom in the x axis it kind of shows you, in the x axis we have different types of plastic which is being used, like PELD, PELLD, PEHD, PP is polypropylene, polystyrene, and PVC, PET. So different types of plastic, and here on the y axis you are seeing the areas where they are used: the packaging, building construction, automotive, electrical, household, leisure and sports, and others, which you saw those categories in the some of like 2 slides before. And as you can see, that's where the data came from, where nearly 40% was packaging, if you remember. Then building construction was 19.7. So it's a breakup of that particular slide that you just saw 2 slides before, where these are the different types of plastics which is used in packaging industry, and in terms of their volume of usage, bigger the circle, more is the plastic that of that particular type. Building construction, for example, in the building construction, if you can see, PVC is the most. It is the biggest circle over there. So PVC is the most used in building construction. Packaging, PET is quite substantial. The biggest one is PELD and PELLD. So that is the polyethylene, low density, and so that's what is used quite a bit over there as well. Automotive, we have PP, polypropylene, that's the maximum that is being used. In others, again, polypropylene is there, and polyurethane is there. So different types of plastic is used in different application. So that's that's how we have lots of variety of plastics that is being made for our usage. So if you look at in terms of in India, what are the in the Indian context, just yeah, we missed one slide. Yeah, so in terms of per capita plastic consumption, so how much plastic we are consuming per person in a particular year. So here, as you can see, from 2014 we have data for 2014 as well as for 2017. So last 4 years ago and last year. So per capita plastic product consumption, where if you look at the numbers, we have, this is a relative figure. As you can see, in Indian context, we are much smaller quantity as compared to US or Europe. Even from compared to US, actually we are even like 10 out of 110. So less than 1/10, less than 10%. So and same thing if you look at in terms of the per capita plastic product consumption, these are kg per person. So how much kg used per person. And the other thing in the Indian context is, see, our population is huge. So for India and China, when anything we put in kg per person, our numbers tends to go down, because our population is so huge, so denominator becomes so big, and then even the plastic the figures, maybe if you look at what is the, let's do the rough calculation. In India, Indian population is around 3 times the US population. So we have a 3 times the USA population. So if we have 9.7, so we were actually around 11th less. So if you in terms of usage, if you see, so that should be 11 divided by 3. So let's, if I just for round it off, I can 4, so 12, so it's like around 4. So we are 1/4. We are, in terms of plastic usage, it is 1/4 of USA. Because if you take into a factor just the plastic, kg of plastic used in the country, excluding the population data. So it's around 25% of the plastic that is used in USA. Still, it's a much less if you look at the, again, we have with so many people around, but still we use just 25% of the plastic of what it is used in US market. So, and then we had a slight increase in 2017, as you can see, for US, Europe, it hasn't changed much. In China, they have gone down a little bit. And when you see this going down, you need to be actually, if you look at these two, 45 to 38. Then Brazil was 32 and 32, it remains like that. In India has gone up. So, because of the global, our GDP is going up, as I have been telling you, those of you who took my solid waste class as well in the like waste management for the smart city, we talked about there, as the GDP of a country increases, the amount of waste that is produced also goes up, and that includes the plastic waste. And so that means our plastic consumption has gone up, and for US it stays the same. For Europe it's almost again it stays the same. In China it has gone down. So either China is trying to reduce the plastic usage, or at the same time the other thing is that the plastics are getting lighter. You can see that the packaging material is getting lighter as well, and this data is kg per person, so it's per weight. So when it's per weight, if things gets lighter, you may be using the same amount of plastic in terms of the volume, but per kg it kind of goes down because you have getting a lighter plastic being used. And here we have the world average, which we didn't have the 2014 data. So this is the world usage per kg per person. So for the Indian context, we are much below the world average. Brazil is kind of slightly ahead of the world average. And if you look at the type of consumption, the so-called American lifestyle, where they are 109 divided by 28, so that's around three and a half times. So 3.5 times more than the world average. That's why many times we see that if every one of us is start living as they live in US in terms of different consumption style, we actually will need 3 Earth to sustain our lifestyle. So 1 Earth will not be enough. So at the bottom, that's what you see is this is the data from FICCI at the bottom, where we have where global average and the Indian average. So a global average packaging is around 35%, and in India we have 43%. Then infrastructure, we are using less in global compared to global average. Auto industry is more or less the same, because auto, it's pretty much similar cars are there. In nowadays you have same, whether it's a Suzuki or Suzuki cars are available in many other countries in the world as well. Or you are looking at in India it's a Maruti Suzuki, but now it is actually Suzuki only. We don't use that Maruti anymore, if I remember correctly. And then we have, for at least for many of those brands, then we have Chevy, we have Renault, we have Volvo, and they are standard cars. They are standard cars used in many other countries. So similar figures you see, 17% and 16%. So not much difference because the design is the same. In others we probably have some more usage of plastic here. And if you look at the agriculture, our plastic usage is much less. Our agriculture sector is still very old fashioned. We still rely too much on rainfall. We don't have those precision agriculture things happening in very extensive way. Probably that's why we don't use a lot of automation in industry. With the automation comes a lot of parts. With a lot of parts, a lot of equipment comes a lot of plastic. So our usage in plastic in agriculture is 1/4 of the global average. So that's what kind of highlights in that particular picture. And the data came from FICCI's data. FICCI is the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries. So that's what the data comes from. Now if you look at again this is this particular information is coming from chemicals and petrochemical statistics. So that's the analysis by Tata Strategic, IOCL industry reports, and research done by Tata Strategic. So here if you look at the demand and breakup of plastic in India by types in 2013, and the reason why is also plastic consumption in 2013. So now again this data is from 2013. If you have a newer data, if you find a report which has available the newer data, you get hold of that. Just send us a link on the discussion forum. It will be nice for us, all of us, to look at that, because as I said, we are trying to put together this information, this lecture material, these slides, using a lot of information on the web from authentic sources. We are just trying to get from authentic sources. We are not taking any website information. We are always looking for reports, technical reports, government reports, good industry reports, like a reputed industry, reliable industry reports, and to get this information. But we may miss some newer data. If we do, please educate us as well. It will be good for all of us while we are learning this course. So in terms of demand breakup of plastic in India by different types, again polypropylene, HDPE, PVCs. So that's you see that HDPE has pretty high demand, polypropylene, PVC has a lot of demand as well, LDPE, LLDPE. So those are where mostly used in the industrial setting. You see this kind of the demand, and reason wise it's no surprise, you see a lot of demand in the western side and then southern, and that's why you would do that, because that's where most of our industries are, isn't it? The western India and the southern India, but that's where most of the industry are. Eastern region, we don't have that many industries. So most of the jobs for the younger generation, actually they go either to south or west of the country, whether most of the placement when it's done in campuses like IITs and other places, you see those companies, most of them they will have the placement, the joining happening in cities in southern India or in western India. So, or some in Delhi side, depend, but that's mostly service industry and most of the manufacturing industries in this area, and that's why you see a lot of plastic consumption over there. And northern region also has 23%. So that's where most of the industry is, west, north and south. East has very low industry, that's why you don't see that much showing up over there. So again, for your these are, you should try to understand them from a conceptual point of view, so that it becomes easy for you to follow. Then you don't have to just memorize these numbers. So that's what we had in terms of usage, in terms of the plastic usage for different sectors. We also looked at the global production of plastic. We try to compare many countries like India, China and other places. So in nutshell, we'll try to in next few minutes I will try to kind of summarize the entire week. First this particular video and then the entire week that we covered. So for this particular week for video, the focus was on looking at the usage of plastic and the global statistics, like in terms of what is the global figures, how much plastic is being used, what type of plastic is being used in different application, and in the global scale, which countries are using most of the plastic. We saw that US and European Union kind of leading the pack when we look at the kg per person usage, and the China and India is where is also China is kind of catching up much faster. India is still in a very low level as compared to other countries in terms of the plastic usage. But if you just look around you see a lot of plastic. So think about how much plastic is being used in the other country. So one natural question which comes into mind, which we'll discuss as we go forward in this particular course, that although we see a lot of plastic being used in say Europe or US, in terms of the plastic pollution, when we get into the plastic pollution sources, we see most of the plastic pollution is actually coming from the Asian countries. Why it is happening that way? You should think about that. Why it is that from the Asian countries we see more plastic being getting into the environment, as opposed to environment means in a mismanaged way. I kind of gave you the answer. So the management of plastic waste is very poor in Asian countries, especially in countries like in India and several other countries around in Asia, as opposed to the plastic waste managed in North America or in European countries, especially Western European countries or Japan or Australia or New Zealand. There they do have the very robust waste collection infrastructure where the plastic is also collected, and whatever can be recycled is they also, another aspect that you need to look at is many of these plastic were coming from North America and Europe to China or India and other places too. So although they are produced over there, but ultimately it is disposed in this environment, especially when they are trying to recycle it in a very informal sector. So taking all those factors into consideration, although you see that a lot of plastic is used in North America and Europe, but many of this plastic is in terms of mismanagement and getting into the environment, getting into the ocean, is actually happening from the Asian countries. And the reason for that is not a proper management system here, and at the same time dumping of the plastic waste from rich countries to the poor countries. So that's we need to look into that, and we'll talk about all these things as we make progress in this particular course. So that was kind of what we try to do in this particular video. Now in terms of the entire week, what we try to talk about, just a recap for you to help you prepare for your quiz, which is due. Actually, as you know, this NPTEL courses requires you to do a weekly quiz, and it will not be tough. Just do it properly and you will be fine. So in terms of this week, we first started with looking at what is plastic. We defined plastic, we talked about the history of plastic, how the plastic came into existence, and how the different types of plastic were evolved, how they were invented. Then we moved in looking into like what are the different usage of plastic, where the plastic is being used, what type of plastic is used in what kind of applications. Then we also started looking into the figures, facts and figures of what are the different types of plastic that is made, in relatively how much quantity, what are the different industries where the plastic, these different types of plastics are being used, and what is the global figure in terms of plastic production as well as usage, and what is the Indian figure in terms of the plastic usage. In India, we also looked at the region wise, which region has more plastic demand versus less plastic demand. So that's kind of what we have covered in this particular week. Now going into the next week, this week was kind of looking at what is plastic. Now from next week, first like week 2, video 1, we'll start getting into what is plastic waste. So we'll start with what is, first of all, what is waste, and then what is plastic waste and how we can handle plastic waste, what are the issues associated with that, what is the human health, environmental. So you will get a lot of discussion happening around that in the starting of next week. So that's what pretty much that covers the week 1. Again, you will please do the weekly quizzes and use the discussion forum for discussion of the material. And if you have any questions, any feedback, any new information that you find, please share it on the discussion forum for the benefit of all, including us. So thank you for taking this course. Hope you liked the first week, and we'll continue our journey for next 7 weeks. And this is an 8-week course. Thank you.